Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, we are back with a new episode of AI and You, a program that explores and discusses issues on artificial intelligence or AI from the perspective of Islam. This program is produced by Batrisyia Afrina, and for the next half an hour, you'll be joining me, your host, Sheikh Muhammad Saifuddeen bin Sheikh Muhammad Salleh. Our topic for discussion this week, I believe, is a very important topic, as we will be laying out the contributions of Islamic scholars who had established fields of knowledge that are important to the foundations of AI. And to discuss this topic entitled Historic Roots of AI, we are fortunate to be joined by our special guest today, Dr. Muhammad Husni bin Mohd Amin, Fellow at the Center for Science and Environment Studies, Institute of Islamic Understanding Malaysia or IKIM. Assalamualaikum, Dr. Husni.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Dr. Shaikh.
Thank you for joining me in the program AI and You.
My pleasure.
As we all know, Dr. Husni is also the contributor of the program Great Works of the Muslim World. And to a certain extent, our discussion today on AI and You is related to his program, which is also aired on IKIMfm. Dr. Husni, my first question to you. Artificial intelligence or AI is a human innovation. And many view AI as a relatively recent technological development that dates back to 1955. However, the foundations for AI can be found in history with significant contributions made by many scholars of yesteryears. And to begin our discussion, perhaps we can start by telling us why is it important for us to acknowledge history when talking about today's technology.
Yeah. Thank you for the question, Dr. Shaikh. It is first important to realize that any technology, before it gets to us, that technology is, we can call it what a philosopher said to be architectonic, meaning it builds upon one another. To reach us, a single nut or a single bolt to reach us has undergone thousands of years of evolution. And just imagine if we were to be stranded on an island and it is up to us to evolve technology. It will take hundreds of years, thousands to get back to where we are today. And Islamic civilization being one of the great civilizations of the world, even today, spanning 1,400 years if we count back to the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the person who we shall say started the golden age of Islam. Then we can say that the world today is pretty much shaped by Islam and the civilization, and many of the things that we enjoy today, computers, calculators, satellites, they use what is called algorithm. And if we trace back this algorithm, it can be traced back to many Muslim contributors, to one person whose name was Muhammad ibn Musa al-Khwarizmi, who lived in the 9th century, who first invented algebra and algorithm as a means to calculate a problem in fiqh, one equation to solve many problems. And then the language, well, even the name algorithm is a corruption of his name al-Khwarizm, because he came from Khwarizm in Khorasan, which we know today to be Transoxiana, or the area of Iran and all the Central Asian countries. And this is what eventually inspired the Turing machine. And even at the same period of time, there were other Muslim contributors like Ibn Musa in the 9th century, Al-Jazari in the 13th century, Taqiyuddin in the 16th century. They were the pioneers of the trick devices, automatons, what they call to be al-hiyal, or ways of overcoming problem. They were the inventors of al-ala al-mutaharikah bidhatiha, things that move by their own. These are the prototypes of robots as we know today, which I believe AI is very much based on. So why is it important to recognize this? Because as AI, it appears now that AI is pretty much the contribution of the Muslim civilization. Therefore, as Muslims themselves, ourselves, it is imperative upon us, because we Muslims have contributed to it. So therefore, we have some imperative in ensuring its evolution.
In other words, we have the moral obligation to do that.
Yes, I believe so.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Interesting introduction, Dr. Husni. But before we go further
Yes.
on history, I'd like to go back to the etymology.
Yeah.
When we say AI, artificial intelligence, that's probably the word that, or the phrase that many people are very much familiar with.
Yeah.
If you look at the Arabic language, AI, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not a linguist. It's Al-Zaka'ul al-Istina'i, right? Could you share with us the semantic analysis of this word, and how would you define then artificial intelligence based on this semantic analysis?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I remember, a few years back when I was still under your directorship. Yes, you brought me an article in Arabic about artificial intelligence, and you asked me, please have a look at this article and see what I could make of it. So that's what I did, Dr. Shaikh. So I was picked because the word that they use in that article for artificial intelligence was az-zaka al-istina'i, and it became popularized in the Arab Muslim world. That's how they refer to it. So these two words, it's az-zaka al-istina'i is there are two words, and az-zaka is the Arabic word for intelligence, being intelligent. We have another word for intelligence, which is aqal. But az-zaka is it derives from the root word zakiya, meaning to be sharp-witted and intelligent. It's not just intelligence, so much so that when you test certain primates in the zoo, and then you find out that they can play with some toys, and they can mix and match shapes into holes, and then you call them intelligent. Or the fact that they can use some sticks to use them as tools to take out ants and eat them for breakfast. But it refers to a kind that is sharp-witted. And one other word is zakiya, which is related, is to cause to a blaze, to kindle. That is the function of the intellect in the first place. So and the second word that they use is istina'i. The root word comes from the word sana'a, and the Quran uses this several times. Sin'ah, the time when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered Prophet Nuh alayhi salam to build the ark, which we now today know as the Noah's Ark. So that is a kind of a construction or manufacture of building something under the gaze of Allah Ta'ala. And sana'a, meaning to benefit or favor somebody. Istina'i, which the word artificial, it is translated into the word artificial. It means it means just that, artificial, from artifice, making things. And some modern translators also translated it as synthetic, as imitation. But surprisingly, I looked up the lexicons. For example, by Tajul Arus by Murtada Zabidi. This is quite even later than Lisan al-Arab. The istina'i is the noun, but if you look back, istina'i from the fi'l, from the verb itself, it means to educate somebody well. If I say istina'tuhu, meaning I have educated, I have trained him, somebody, well. So this very fascinating, Dr. Shah, because we're talking about now AI, we talk about ChatGPT,
Machine learning.
machine learning. They call it a large language model.
Yes.
Well, we need to train them. So in training AI itself, we need to use proper words and then proper
Prompts.
sentence transfer. You cannot use language that the kind of what do you call it? The kind of short forms that confuses people. Some people say that school kids use in WeChat or in WhatsApp. No, but rather you have to use proper grammatical structure to ensure that you get what you meant the AI to give you.
I think the phrase that they use now is prompt engineering.
Yes, so it's a kind of engineering now. So that's about the semantic analysis of the word, which give us a lot of things about AI. That it is something that's got to do with the doing of things. Even technology itself, it comes from the Greek word techne, technicus in the Latin, meaning something that people do with their hands.
True. And at the end of the day, the aim is to bring about good.
Yes.
And I think that is also reflected in the word istinai as well.
Yes.
Right, Doctor, I think what you just explained to us, I'm quite sure perks a lot of people's interest. But going back to what you said during the introduction, one important term that is closely related to AI is, of course, algorithm.
Yes.
And you've already briefly mentioned where that word comes from, but perhaps you could enlighten us further regarding the contribution of the Islamic civilization in this field of knowledge, specifically algorithm.
Yeah. Well, when we talk about algorithm, it goes back to the logic tradition of Islam. I mean, I'm sure you well know about this. You taught logic yourself when you were in university. So, but it's got to do also, since we are in the subject of intelligence and intellect. According to one of the luminary of Islam, Imam Abu Hamid Muhammad ibn Muhammad al-Ghazali, who died in the 12th century, he says is the human intelligence, which is called akal, is a noble and unique attribute which separates human beings from animals, and it allows scientific understanding and for people to organize disciplines. That's how you get, what you call classification of knowledge. And it's also imagine he also defined the intellect as a science based on evidence which discerns possibilities and impossibilities, and it's based on study of empirical evidences and conditions from which they originated. And from here, the intellect also functions as the faculty of the soul which discerns the consequences of action, akibatul umur. So if you do this, you do that. So that is the basis of logic. So from there, we got Muhammad Musa al-Khawarizmi, who invented algebra and algorithm meant to solve problems. And then it goes into the discipline of Hiyal, which they used to overcome their problems. And the contribution of Banu Musa, they invented floodgates, they invented the nilometer. And then but Muslims have been contributing to logic for a very long time, and from Farabi, which they refine the logic they got from Greeks, and then they compared to what they have in the scripture in the Quran, and from there they derive their logic. Says this is how human beings intellects works. So they have been working on this. So Farabi, Ibn Sina, Al-Ghazali, and Al-Abhari, and then contributed. So every century there are contributors from among the Muslims who contributed to the science of logic up until the 21st century, when one electronics engineer by the name of Lutfi Zadeh. He came from Azerbaijan in the 50s, in the 70s. During that time, he was still under the USSR, and then he saw. The story goes that he saw a great opportunity of working in the USA, and that's from Azerbaijan he migrated to Iran, and then from Iran he migrated to the USA. So there he invented what we know to be fuzzy logic. So when people ask him, why do you say fuzzy logic, he says in logic, I just read this morning, Dr. Shaikh. He says that, well, in logic, you can be clear about many things, about how a square is not a circle, or you cannot say a square circle. Logic makes it very clear that a circle is a circle, and a square is a square. But there are things in life which it becomes fuzzy. For example, good deeds. So when you do something good, nobody knows. Nobody can divine your intentions. Only you know, and God knows what you intend by certain deeds. So he says that's where the fuzzy comes in. These are very fuzzy, very blurry. So fuzzy logic is meant to go into there to help us think about that. So like I said before, all this give us the moral right, as you said, that they share to respond to how AI is being evolved as a useful tool to help us navigate and do works within the divinely ordained limits of the religion.
Right. Recently, when I was in Kota Baru, we talked about AI from the Islamic perspective. And one of the speakers actually highlighted that we are going towards what is called as artificial super intelligence. When that time comes, most people will have an AI assistant. He gave an analogy. It's to understand this in a simple way. He gives the analogy of the cartoon Doraemon. When Nobita has the robot assistant in the form of a blue robot called Doraemon.
There's a cat.
Which is a cat, a robot cat.
Yes.
And basically the robot helps the boy throughout his adventures. So you mentioned about automatons, you mentioned about robotics, and you mentioned about Badu Musa, among others. So we know that AI is very much linked to robotics. Perhaps you'd like to enlighten us further about the precursor that can be traced back to the Islamic civilization regarding robotics.
So it appears that when they use this word azaka istina'i in the Arab world, I think they meant it carefully, that we are to regard AI as tool, and it being tool is robotics plays a very large role in our life today. Even our cars are being manufactured by robots, and now you have the CNC tooling machine, that does the grinding, and now with 3D printing also, which makes our life even more easier. So they meant it as that, and in history we see that, as I mentioned before, when they make these al-hiyal devices, it means that robots have been pretty much in our lives, even in history, since 1,000 years ago. Meaning, for Muslims, we shouldn't regard it as something alien, something that is outside, that is foreign, or something that is Western. Rather, it is something that we should take up and embrace it and make use of it. Basically use it for easing our lives. So now our history goes back to Banu Musa, which I studied before during for my graduate studies. There are the three brothers, Muhammad, Ahmad, and Al Hassan, and they grew up in the under the protection of Khalifah Al Ma'mun. This is between 832 till 873 and their collective expertise ranges from astronomy and mathematics and engineering and geometry. So they made this. I had a really good time. It was really one of the best times in my life studying them, because they, in their manuscript called Kitabul Hiyal, the book of the ingenious devices, and we have it in our library, a copy of that book, the critical edition in Arabic. And I think in Malaysia also, in some of the libraries and the universities, I've also found translations of it, and where they describe, you know, various applications for their systems. Imagine, for the simplest being the pump valve for your lavatory, the toilet, the
The
lever,
flush.
the flushing system. So that's how they automatically, nowadays we don't think about taking water from the river and filling up our cisterns and our tanks, but it does it automatically when we take it for granted. And one of the things that they made was a figurine of a mechanical figurine. They show there's a figure of a lion and two gazelles, and in the description they mention about the gazelles will not move until the lion moves, and when the lion dips its head, meaning to drink water from a basin, only then the mechanical gazelle will follow, and then they will make like sounds, which is cleverly contrived from the pneumatic system that incorporate in that. And then when the lion, he lifts his head up again, and then the gazelle, do the same. So these are the things which I find it fascinating, because if we are cut from our tradition, then we would think that this comes from the West. This is some of us will think that it's borderline magic. So it's got nothing to do with our religion whatsoever. But the fact that this is sin'ah, this is something that that's got to do with, even in the Quran says fa'alhamaha fujuraha wa taqwaha, that God inspired people, the bad and the good, and so it's up to them to incline in whichever, meaning even this knowledge God gave human beings.
Right.
Yeah.
Very interesting, Dr. Husni. I think I can ask you more questions about robotics, but I think I'd like to go back to logic.
Yeah,
You already
yeah.
mentioned about the contributions of some of the scholars from the yesteryears,
Yeah.
and also how we come to what we call today as fuzzy logics, which of course has its roots in fuzzy mathematics. So perhaps you'd like to share more information regarding contributions of scholars in this field, because I think it's also related, like you said, to algorithm.
Yeah.
The Turing machine, basically it's one machine created by Alan Turing, and I was informed by a professor from Liverpool, John Moores University, that Alan Turing actually got his inspiration from Al-Khwarizmi, because Al-Khwarizmi came up with the quadratic equation, for example, one general equation that can solve many conditions or situations. So basically the Turing machine is the same. So I think without logic, definitely that is impossible. Perhaps you have some comments on that.
Yeah. I think logic plays an important part even in fiqh. I remember there's one saying by Imam Ghazali. It says that ما لا يعرف المنطق لا يثق بعلمه. Whoever does not know logic, then his knowledge cannot be trusted. And this is coming from Imam Ghazali, who prior to his later career in life as the rector of Nizamiyah group of colleges, he made his name first in fiqh. One of his work is Al-Mahsul fi Ulum al-Fiqh, which his own teacher Al-Juwayni said to him, giving him critical acclaim, saying that couldn't you have waited until I have died first before you produce this kind of book? So that's coming from, and he's produced many works on logic, Miyar al-Ilm, Mihakun Nazar. These are classic works that deal with the subject of logic. And then we have like people like Abhari, our former Director General, Datuk Syed Ali Taufiq Alatas. His PhD was on that, on the Masya'i philosophical system. He talks about logic. Athiruddin Al-Abhari was the name of the author, and there are many other logic works. And I think it's important now more than ever, when dealing with AI, we ourselves, because it's a tool, and to use the analogy, it can be likened to a kitchen knife. Just imagine that a kitchen knife in the hands of somebody who's working in the kitchen. Therefore, such a person can use it to, carve up pumpkins, chop vegetables and make a good, stew or soup, what you call it. But if in the hands of a dangerous person, a criminal, and it could be used for bad. Therefore, not only the ethics is important here, but also the way of thinking, which is tightly to logic itself. So for us human beings, all the while we are advancing AI, there is a need also for us to advance our own knowledge about many other things like quantic logic and there are plenty of works. So that's why even in IKIM we offer programs such as Thinking with Wisdom, which ended last August, specifically geared towards advancing our knowledge of logic and the proper way of thinking.
Right. Dr. Husni, we're coming towards the end of our program.
Right.
Perhaps you have some concluding remarks that you can share with our listeners.
Yeah. So because AI is such a tool, is a great tool. I mean, we have to have proper policies at the governmental level. We have to have proper policies. We have to consult the experts, the technologists, the ethicists. I mean, even religious scholars to come up with a good policy for the nation, and for executives, people who are at the managerial level will find it useful to use it, but they will have to come up with good policies, and because the moral imperatives is upon us to guide the use of AI, to guide both the evolution of AI itself and the use of AI, because it's a tool. It's just like any other tool. It can become a weapon. It can be a tool for building. So therefore, we have to look at it. We must look at it in such a way that we do not forget that it's pretty much part of our civilization, and then we have imperative to it. And it's for the giving benefit or performing a good action or deed. Basically, is that
right? Nicely put, Dr. Husni.
Yeah.
I think what you said is actually a challenge for everyone, not just the digital migrants, people like us who were born outside the era of AI.
The boomers and the millennials.
But also for the digital natives,
Yes.
those who are born with AI already part of their lives. So I think what you put down as your conclusion is perhaps a remark that we should give attention to. Again, thank you, Dr. Husni, for sharing your thoughts with us. We've come to the end of our program this week, but I think one of the take-home points from our discussion today is that while we live in the present, in an age where AI is part and parcel of our life, it is also important that we do not forget the past, as the people who came before us have laid down the very foundations that brought us to much of the progress and development that we enjoy today. So we know that Islam also enjoins us to learn from the past in order for us to create a better future.
Yes.
I think if we look at the works of Ibn Khaldun, for example, I think that reflects what you've shared with us throughout the episode today. That's all the time that we have for this week's edition of AI and You. I would like to thank again our guest, Dr. Husni bin Mohd Amin, for sharing his knowledge on the topic historic roots of AI. For the last 30 minutes, you have been listening to AI and You. I'm Shaikh Saifuddeen with Shaikh Salleh. Signing off until next week. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.